any comments, questions about not only the film, but issues that came up.
I'm not saying that I'm necessarily against illegal immigration, but because I've experienced the legal way of immigrating, at least through my parents, I'm an American, I can't help but think, well, my parents did it the legal way, and it was hard, and it was expensive, and it took years, it took 10 years, a lot of, during the immigrant, if you do it legally, I remember my grandfather died, but my dad couldn't go back to Bangladesh, which is where my parents are from, because he was in this stage in his immigration process where you can't go anywhere in order to obtain citizenship. So I'm thinking about all these things that people that do it the legal way, it is a challenge, and it is a big sacrifice. And I'm not saying that doing it the illegal way isn't, but I'd like to just kind of get everyone's opinion about that.
If the laws don't work, change them. The laws have to be changed. I don't know what the problem is.
I've heard stories and I've seen people where they come over, and a lot of times they come over when they're young, and that's what I'm interested in the documentary, and hearing some of their stories, like the few that work at Panda Express, and seeing how they didn't have records, and seeing their story on how they got here.
There used to be laws where you could just come across the border. You just sign at the border. You're going to work here today and go back. When I was little.
One thing I would kind of wanted to comment on about this clip is that I think maybe it's part of the section we didn't see, is that the huge role that Latin Americans, Latinos, Hispanics play in today's military. I know as an officer I had many Garcias and other Latino names that were underneath my command and underneath my chain that really, I think, shows that the military is a wonderful cross-representation, despite our many problems. I know we have problems, but we're a wonderful cross-representation of American society, and we have minorities from all walks of life: whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, you name it. They're in the military, and I think that one thing to keep in mind is, with that a lot of these people who may come across the border legally or illegally use the military as a way to gain their citizenship, should they choose to do so. And I think it's important to note that some of these people who are in our Army, our Marine, our Air Force, and our Navy are fighting for a country that they are not citizens for, because they really appreciate, I guess you could say, the American dream and the possibilities that we have in this country. And I just wanted to let you guys know that.
On the terms Hispanic versus Latino, do you think there should be one term for all, or just leave it the way it is?
Hispanic is kind of like a government coined term, to kind of group everybody together, and so I think that the sentiment there is that it doesn't really recognize the diversity that exists within the Latino culture, and Hispanic kind of implies from Spain. And not everybody is from Spain. The great majority of people are Mexican American or from South America. And so I think that it is could be used as an unfair group.
I have to give preference to the term that the people I work with prefer, which is Latino. And I think it carries a much more grassroots from the people connotation with it. And so that's kind of where my preference lies. But there are arguments for both sides. I mean, I'm thankful for this documentary because as a community organizer, my job is to help people tell their stories, and that's how you get people to understand that it's a little more complicated than just writing return to sender on every single immigrant that's undocumented in this country and shipping them back. And everyone's situation is different, and when a client comes into our office to ask for assistance paying his rent for the month, he has no idea why the complicated international trade policies that hurt his country and made him have to come work construction here. He just knows he needed to feed his family. And so I think it's really important that we hear stories and tell stories and understand that people are people, and it's not an issue of just shipping things back to where they came from.